I'm attempting to complete every single GameCube game, and I'm using a random number generator to pick the next game. Last episode, we got to adventure through Middle-earth as everyone's favorite hobbit, Bilbo Baggins, in The Hobbit. And this episode, we're getting our Spidey senses going and playing the Ultimate Spider-Man. The Ultimate Spider-Man was released on September 19th, 2005, and was developed by Beanox and Treyarch, and was published by Activision. This was one of the better GameCube games we've played so far, and I think it was a bit before its time. I really like this one. Before we get started, make sure to like this video because it helps out the channel, and subscribe if you're new so you don't miss any of the future games. Without further ado, this is my experience with The Ultimate Spider-Man. In The Ultimate Spider-Man, we're going to go through the story mode to consider this one complete. The game opens with a cutscene showing how our boy Peter Parker became Spider-Man because you always need an origin story for Spider-Man. The cutscene is done in a comic book style, which is done really good. This is one of the things I really like about this game, because it makes it feel like we're playing the adventure through a comic book. It matches the graphic style. We also find out about the Venom symbiote and how Eddie Brock gets the power of Venom. Then we have to fight him with Spider-Man. This game is pretty basic when it comes to combat. We can punch and kick with Spider-Man, and we can also jump and use our web shooters. When in combat, you'll have Spider Sense, which will let you know when you should get out of the way or counter an attack. This seems almost like an early version of the Assassin's Creed combat system, or something similar at least. When we finally get Venom's health down, we get a cutscene where Venom and Spider-Man hug in midair and land on a car. Then we finally meet Mary Jane, and she's talking to us while we're heading to school. In this game, she knows that we're Spider-Man already, so we can talk to her about all the issues we're having around town. She even helps out a bit. This game isn't just about combat, and it takes place in a large, open world of New York City. I really like that we have the freedom to swing around and look around the city. When we're swinging around town, we have the ability to have long webs, or we can shoot webs in front of us to move forward at a quicker rate. This will come in handy later when we have to chase after all the villains in this game, because for some reason, that's the theme of this game. Chase a villain and then fight them. I don't know why that's the choice, but that's the gameplay for this game. Speaking of villains, we run into our first one in this electric guy. I have no idea who he is, but he's extremely weak and he doesn't put up much of a fight. There are regular bad guys in this game as well. You can't knock them out or anything, but when you knock them down, you can web them up so they can't move anymore, and that's how you get rid of them. It's a pretty simple system and goes well with the character of Spider-Man. We meet the Human Torch in this game, and he challenges us to a race around the city. These are a big thing in this game as well. You don't have to race the Human Torch every time, but the game requires you to do some races around town to advance the story of the game. During the race, you have to get into these giant Spider-Man colored balls to get each checkpoint within the race. I'm not sure why this was the choice, but it makes it easy to figure out where you need to go, so I'm not complaining. In order to advance the story for the Ultimate Spider-Man, you have to achieve city goals. These are collecting tokens around town, getting race medals, which we talked about before, combat tours, which are just beating up some basic enemies over a specific area of the city, and city events where we're helping civilians in different ways. Some of these are really easy and quick, but the city events randomly pop up when exploring the city, and sometimes they just don't want to show up very quick. The races, as I mentioned before, are timed, and you have to get at least the bronze medal in them to consider them complete and count towards your city goals. Most of them are pretty easy once you figure out the movement in the game. This first one takes place on top of a high school, and every one of the checkpoints are pretty close together. Collecting tokens is really easy, and they're these large coin-shaped objects that are pretty easy to see from a distance. This first city event is helping a man that is hanging off the fire exit, and we have to grab him and take him down to the ground safely. When a new story mission is available, it will show up on the map as a beacon, and you have to run over there to where it is to activate the story. Most of them show up at Peter Parker's work or at his house. The first one we get to advance the story allows us to play as Venom, which is really fun because he's a large powerhouse that can eat people for energy. The first mission as Venom is getting us used to how to play as him. It's almost like a tutorial. Then we get a cutscene where we destroy Wolverine's motorcycle and we have to fight him in a bar. This is the first major boss fight in the game. Wolverine is quick and he hits pretty hard, but if you continue to hit him and move around, he's pretty easy. We get a cutscene after we beat him of us punching him in the head and knocking him out. And that's the end of this Venom section, and we get this cool transition back to controlling Spider-Man. I really like these. I wanted to show what a combat tour basically does in this game. It's just running around and beating up people in one area and moving to the next one. It's super easy, and I don't understand the point of them because it doesn't really do anything for us besides making us feel like a hero. Then we get the next story mission for Spider-Man where we have to chase down a villain that is causing problems in the town. This is when the chasing a villain part of the story happens. The super annoying, not fun part of this game. On our way to the villain, we have to save people along the way from the destruction that they're causing. The first one is rescuing a man from under a telephone pole or an electrical pole. I don't know, one or the other. I won't be showing all these in the future, but I wanted to show what they're like when they show up. We finally figure out who we're about to fight, and it's a big metal rhino that is causing problems in the city. He looks super cool and would cause a lot of problems if we were to let him roam. Now we have to chase him down since we know who we're going after. These parts could be cool, but in the end, they just become boring and difficult for no reason. Then we get into an actual fight, which these boss fights are done very well throughout the game. And I wish the fights would just be these instead of the chase before. When we meet up with Rhino, we have to lure him into getting stuck in a wet cement area and using a wrecking ball to cause damage. This part is really cool and the wrecking ball does massive damage to him. Also, look at the ragdoll effects in this game. I love that after I get smashed by the Rhino rolling around like a dog, we just shoot up in the air and look crazy. I love this. The wrecking ball causes damage to the back of the Rhino suit, and when we meet back up with him, we have to hop on his back and punch the opening to cause some damage. This part was a bit challenging because I was still learning the controls at this point, so I lost my first attempt at it. When fighting him, you have to dodge over and over until his back lights up blue, and then you can jump on it and punch it like your life depends on it. Look at the carnage this man is doing. Once we get to the end of the fight, he starts to charge the walls around us, and this will stun him. I don't know how he's not running through the buildings like they showed us at the beginning of this fight, but who am I to judge this? Once he's down, we get a cutscene where his suit is destroyed, and a not so intimidating man comes out of it. This leads to his arrest, and we're done fighting Rhino for the rest of the game. This was a great boss fight. After this fight, we get a cutscene where Silver is trying to get Eddie Brock because of the Venom suit, and we learn that we can throw cars at people using Venom. We escape for now and move back into playing as Spider-Man, where we get another fight with Venom. This one is a bit more difficult because we can't be around him for very long because we are having a reaction to his suit. We also collect a medal during this part, and then get another cutscene where Venom beats us down until Silver shows up and electrocutes Venom into submission. We put up a good fight in this cutscene, and I think this helps move the story along. After that long cutscene, we get another cutscene showing that we have some of the Venom symbiote in our DNA, and that's why we're getting these massive headaches while fighting Venom. It's causing us to feel pain when we're too close to Venom for too long. This seems like a bit of a problem for us heading into the future. Once things settle down a bit, we get another cutscene where Eddie Brock is being held captive by Trask Industries. Bolivar, I think that's how you say his name, which is the president of Trask Industries. I'm just going to call him the president from here on out. It's just easier. He wants to run some tests on Eddie so he can study how the Venom suit reacts to certain things. Finally, after all those cutscenes, we get to play as Venom again. And in this section, we're chasing after Electro as he goes through the city as a test for Eddie Brock. I'm not sure why we need to cause destruction in the city for this test, but I guess the president just doesn't care about other people. We chase him throughout the city and eventually meet up with him in Times Square, or something that at least looks like it. We get another cutscene where Electro is acting a fool and he starts beating up Venom and knocks out Spider-Man. So as Venom, we have to protect Peter Parker because we're still friends. This fight is interesting as well. I think the boss fights in this game are always done really well. We have to first fight Electro in his normal form, which isn't that bad, and stay close enough to Spider-Man without letting him do too much harm to him at least. Once we get Electro's health down pretty low, we get another cutscene that shows him turning into a fiend for electricity, and then he turns into a full blue Electro. In this section of the fight, we have to use cars and throw them at him to knock him out of the blue form so that we can do some damage. However, during this fight, he'll fly off and heal himself using the electric from all the signs in Times Square. So we also have to destroy all of those so that he can't heal himself. After that, it's an easy fight and we take him down and get another cutscene. In this cutscene, it looks like Venom is going to kill Spider-Man, but then a bunch of soldiers show up and save the day. These soldiers work for Nick Fury, I think? We get another cutscene that introduces us to Beetle, a flying bug person that we have to chase down as Spider-Man. I'm skipping over a lot of completing goals because I don't think we really need to talk about them since they're pretty much the same thing over and over again. When chasing Beetle, he can put up these walls that we can't get through, so we either have to go under them or over them, and they are super frustrating because the chase parts already suck pretty bad. I really wish these parts weren't in the game. We get another cutscene where we catch up to Beetle and he takes the vial for Sandman, which we don't actually get to see in this game. Then on to the actual boss fight. This is probably the weakest of the boss fights in this game. It just has us beating him up as he flies around on top of a building. It's nothing too special. We find out that he goes into an embassy of some sort and we have to wait before we enter. During all this, Silver is transporting Venom in an airship, and of course, even though he's restrained, he's able to transform and escape from the ship. It's a pretty cool cutscene. Then we get to fight Silver. This boss fight is another weak one because of how slow it moves. Silver keeps her distance and dodges most attacks, so we have to jump around a lot and hit her when we can. Also, if you try to throw cars, it seems pretty pointless because she always just rolls out of the way. I don't hate this boss fight, but it's just very slow. Once we win the fight, that's when the fun begins with this part. We have like a military force after us at this point, and we have to get to different areas of the city while escaping soldiers, helicopters, and airships. This was super fun and allowed for us to just jump around the city and cause chaos using Venom, which were always my favorite parts in this game. We would just have to stop every once in a while and eat some soldiers. Then we get another cutscene where Venom jumps on the front of an airship that Nick Fury and Silver are inside, and brings it crashing down. Way to go, Venom! Back in the world of Spider-Man, we meet up with Nick Fury, and he tells us to leave the embassy alone. Knowing that Spider-Man isn't going to, so we head into the embassy and get kicked out by a raging monster. At the time when I was fighting this villain, I had no idea who this was. But later I found out this is the Green Goblin, but in like a giant angry creature form or something. I thought that was pretty interesting. I mean, maybe that's just how it is in the Ultimate Spider-Man, but I don't really know comics, so sorry. So as with most fights in this game, we have to chase the Green Goblin around town. He's pretty quick, but doesn't have anything special that goes on that makes him super hard to keep up with. We meet him in the middle of the street, and we have to start our fight with him. During this fight, we have to just avoid him throwing fireballs at us. This isn't that hard, and when he's done, we can jump up and kick him in the face. This goes on for a while until we get a cutscene where he grabs our legs and throws us into a building. This room reminds me of some world meeting building with all the desks and table, like a United Nations meeting or something. It's a pretty neat little section. In this part of the fight, the Green Goblin will throw the fireballs at us again, but then he will also jump and do a fire ring smash that we have to jump over, and then we can kick him in the face again. The thing I appreciated about this was the building starts to catch on fire when he's attacking us, making it harder for us to avoid him. And it feels like an actual fight. Look how close I was at the end of the fight to dying. I almost had no health left, and I think if I would have had to dodge him jumping around again, I would have died for sure. Anyways, after we defeat him, we get another cutscene where a mysterious red-headed woman shows up and takes him away, but not before we have a chance to talk to her for a minute. Is this Black Widow? I never did find out. Let me know down in the comments below if you know who this is. Now it's Venom's turn to beat up Beetle. I don't know why he's tracking down Venom exactly, but we don't like it and we decide we're going to fight him, but not before another chase down. If you haven't noticed, the game is extended in two ways. These chase scenes that are extremely pointless, and having to get enough tokens and medals using Spider-Man. I understand them doing this, but the chase scenes just make the game annoying at points, and I don't really like them. He leads us to an old warehouse, but it's all a trap to try to capture us. The first part of this fight is pretty easy. He flies around the room and Venom jumps around, and you have to slap him over and over again with our tentacle arms. Then, once we get his health down low enough, he traps us inside of a big blue box. There's holes in the ground that will do major damage to us by shooting us with lasers, and he continues to fly around in here and shoot us with lasers and these missile things. I'm not sure what those are exactly. This part is pretty fun. It's not that difficult, even though I died once before completing it. Once we beat him, he's just laying on the ground, sparking away, and being smart, Venom decides he needs to get out of the warehouse and escape. We also get this really nice shot of him by the moon. Back in the world of Spider-Man, Peter Parker is walking home from school, and Silver decides she's going to shoot us and put us to sleep to take us somewhere. I have no idea what the plan was. This works sort of, but we wake up in the car ride and cause the car to wreck, and we get out and fight Silver without our suit. This is a pretty weird fight because we can't use our web shooters, so we have to just jump around and kick and punch. It feels like a street fight with someone that's really good at parkour, just hopping around and doing quick attacks. I actually liked this because it changed the combat up a bit. Once we get Silver's health down enough, a car accident happens and it causes a bunch of bad things to happen on the bridge. We have to rescue a bunch of people in a limited amount of time. The one I wanted to show is when we have to save these two people from their car as it's falling off the bridge. Silver actually helps us here, so that was pretty cool. I guess she isn't evil after all. She does kind of seem evil though. Why can't we just work together and solve our problems that way? Did she really need to kidnap me while I was walking home from school? Anyways, Venom shows up and we have to chase him down. This might be the hardest chase down in the game. Venom is super fast and he jumps super far distances. It also lasts way too long without checkpoints. Why do these exist? This part alone took me 10 tries to get down. Once we catch up to him, we have to fight him again. This time doesn't feel any harder than before, other than he likes to throw cars at us and he tries to eat us a bunch. Still the same jumping around and kicking him in the head. The goal is to prevent him from harming Silver, which he doesn't take much interest in unless you go really far away from him. Once we get his health down, we get another cutscene where Eddie Brock is back in the containment cell, gets out, and runs into Carnage. This fight is fun. This is how you do the chase section in a game. We fight him in the room for a bit, and when his health gets low, he escapes out of the room and damages the door. We have to lift the door to get to the next room, and he'll heal by absorbing guards and scientists while we're opening it. We do this for a couple rooms before we get into a giant lab, and we just have to get his health all the way down. Once we defeat him, we get another cutscene that is from earlier, where Peter Parker is on a table and they give him a shot that activates the Venom symbiote that's in his blood, causing him to turn into Carnage. This was a cool reveal. I really like this. Then we get a cutscene where Venom finally takes the portion of himself back and becomes full-strength Venom. I really enjoyed this because them doing this here makes the final showdown with Venom make sense, that he's super strong compared to the other 4 times we fought him in the game. Before that fight, however, Spider-Man makes a stop at the president's office and wants documents about his dad and how he died, because he worked for Trask in the past. The president wants to just get out of Dodge and makes a mad dash for his helicopter on the top of the building. On the rooftop, we run into Silver again, and we think we're going to have to fight her again. But she just lets us pass and tells us that the president doesn't know how to fly the helicopter, so we can just get to him without much problem. Well, that's until Venom shows up. Venom doesn't want to know the truth, he just wants to take the Trask President down for good, and will fight us to achieve that feat. The Venom fight here is good. He's trying to push the helicopter off the top of the building, and we have to stop him. We have to go over to him and hit him to get his attention, and then not get hit so that we don't get shot like a rag doll, and then he just goes back to trying to push the helicopter off. Venom is really strong in this fight, and we have to dodge in order to take him down. Taking hits will cause us to lose health too quickly, and then we'll lose the fight. Towards the end of the fight, the rooftop is on fire, and we have to just fight him really close to the helicopter. Look how close on this attempt we were to finishing it. I would have been able to take him down 100%, but he pushed the helicopter off the building and I lost the fight. After this attempt, I could do this fight like every attempt, which I ended up doing twice because the game crashed after beating him. Once we beat him, we get this cutscene where we kick him, and then he tries to get back up, and we hit him with a stupid strong punch. We also find out that our dad died because of the Venom suit. Venom took out the plane that our dad was in. It was a different person controlling Venom at that point. Then Venom escapes, and we get a cutscene where he shows up in prison where the president is. And I assume that he kills the president. I don't know for sure because it doesn't say, but I think he does. Then it cuts back to Spider-Man being sat on the roof with Mary Jane, and one last shot of Venom still lurking around the city. This isn't the end of this rivalry. And that's the end of the game. I don't know why we didn't get credits to actually roll, but that's the end of the game. I think I would recommend this game because I enjoyed it a lot besides the chase scenes. It's the most out of place thing in this game and was just not fun. Mostly just frustrating. If you like Spider-Man games, this is a good one to try out. If you want to know what's next, stick around, and if not, thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe, like, and share this video, and we'll see you in the next one. Alright, so we just finished the Ultimate Spider-Man. I have my number generator ready to go at 547. We got our GameCube list. Yeah. 547 left to go. I wonder what we're going to get this time. And we're going to find out on the count of 3, 2, 1. What are we going to get? 243. What is 243? 243 is Madden NFL 07. That is the next game we're playing. Is Madden 07, I guess. I don't know how this one was on the GameCube, but yeah, that's what we're going into next. And I'll have to figure out how we're going to want to knock that out. So, all right. Cool.